Hello everybody, welcome to another Python tutorial video. This one I'm going to try to do pretty quickly, but it should be pretty easy to understand. So, I've made another guessing game right here. As you can see, I'm importing two things. Let's not worry about that right now, let's worry about the first line. Okay, so the first line says that's another guessing game, and the computer is going to find a number, and it's going to give you hints to find it. So this integer is going to be taking the input of guess a number between 0 and 100. So, and that's going to be casted to an integer to make life a little bit easier. This right here, that's how you time.time is how you get the current time. And then if you do time.time here, and as you can see I have it down here, if you do something like this, so if you take time.time at the beginning of a program and then you take it at the end of a program and find a difference, you're gonna see that it'll show you how many seconds it took for the program to get done. Now this while loop is sort of broken because I'm already trying to cast this input up here. Right here, this statement is supposed to catch whether or not you're getting the right data type, but as you can see, I'm already trying to cast it up here, and if somebody puts in a string for like something that can't be casted to an int up here, it's going to turn an error because I'm already trying to cast it. But let's sort of not worry about that right now. Even though there might be some errors in this code, then it'll still work if we enter in the right things. But the only thing that really matters is that this right here, like I'm not dealing with the while loop right now, I'm just showing you what this is doing. So we've got some new stuff here. This is a type statement. Basically you're trying to check the type of an input, so the data type. So what I was supposed to check for is to check if you were entering in a data value that was not an integer. So if you were entering in like an f, for an example, it was supposed to catch that, but it already returns an error up here, so it doesn't work. But let's say you did input an f, then the type of f, if it does not equal, because the type of an f is a character or an integer, a character or a string. If it does not equal the type of an integer, which it does not, then this statement would return true. It'd go through this while loop. So a while loop is basically, I'm going to explain while loops now after I got through all that ranting and stuff. A while loop is basically an if statement on steroids. It's basically an if statement that will run forever unless the statement inside of here becomes false, or you put something like this, a break statement inside of it. So basically what this is checking is checking whether or not it's in between the bounds of 0 and 100. So if the number that we're getting as an input right here is greater than or equal to 100, then that's going to be true. This whole thing's going to be true. It's going to tell you to guess again. So I'm going to show you that right now. Let's say I'm doing 101. It tells me to guess again. So now we're going to show that now that I've shown that that works. It also checks for below that. It checks if it's below 0 or 0 and below, and then it'll tell you to guess another number. So that's it for the first while loop. Now the second while loop is a bit tricky. It starts out with this variable called counter. That's an integer. It's set to 0. Now this integer is set to 0. Now the while loop goes through and it checks, well, if your number is, since it's a guessing game, if your number is not equal to the random number, just run the while loop. So basically what happens is the counter goes up 1. The counter is basically how many guesses you're going to take. So you're going to take one guess. If your number is not equal to the random number, this counter will go up 1, and there you go. It'll count it as a guess. Now, if the random number is greater than your number, it'll tell you to guess higher. And it will then take the input right here, and then it will also overwrite the number. So it overwrites the number, and then it goes through the whole entire loop again, because these are both else-if statements. So it just runs through this one. It's not going to run through these. It'll run the while loop again, and then it'll try and take your input again. So this is the case over here too. If the random number is less than your number, it'll say guess lower, and then the input right here, it'll take your input, overwrite num, and then it will go back to the beginning. So now this right here is another else if. It's just sort of making sure that it's going to work correctly. It's just checking if the random number is equal to your number, it'll break out of the loop. Now break statements will break out of any loop, a for loop or a while loop. For loops are the next video. And this breaks statement is just to check, if you got the number right, we're not going to run this again because you don't need to guess. So that's pretty much this statement, this while loop right here. Now this right here is saying, okay, so you have your number is equal to the random number now. It's going to add a guess because it hasn't gone, because if it breaks out of here, it just goes straight down. It doesn't run through the while loop again and then go over here, so technically your guess would not be counted. So that's why I did counter plus equals 1 right here. And then it displays all these statistics and stuff like that, so it shows you number of guesses and stuff. So that's one using in a real program. Now this one right over here, this is a small program that I wrote. It should show us a little bit easier way to understand while loops. So we're just taking the input of just any number, and we're creating a random number that, hold on, okay, we're taking the input of a number that we're going to be given by the user, and there's a random number that will then be between 0 and 20. Now it says while true. Remember, anything inside of here is going to be a Boolean, no matter what. It's going to end up being a Boolean because you're going to be using what are we going to be using? Logical operators. Yes, we're going to be using logical operators. So it'll eventually end up being either a true or a false, and since it's true, it'll run. So this loop will run over and over and over and over again until there's a break statement. So let's see what will cause the break statement to happen. So basically, we're just checking if our number doesn't equal the random number. Now this isn't like the other game where you have to guess higher or lower. This is just a game where you're just guessing for a number between 0 and 20. Now this just checks, okay, so you didn't get the random number. We're going to take your input again, and then it goes through the while loop again, and it keeps taking your input until you get the number. And when you get the number, you see this is false, so it doesn't run this if statement, so it goes right to the else statement and it breaks. So loops are pretty they can be pretty easy, but when you get if statements, they can get to being pretty hard. But basically, I'll just show you how it works, and it should show you that everything is fine. So I'm just going to guess 5, guess again, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. so it was 14. Um, that's basically how you use a while loop. That's a very simple while loop. Um, you could do an even simpler while loop, and I'll write it right now. So counter equals 1, and you do while counter is less than or equal to 15. I'll do counter equals 0. So this program right here is very simple. Basically, it just counts to 15. So I'm going to guess the number. And as you can see, counts from 2 to 15. I'll just set it to 0 so it counts through 15. Yeah, but it counts up to 15. So it just goes until either, so while loops just pretty much they run until either what's in this first parentheses is false or there's a break statement. Anything else inside that's going to run no matter what. And yeah, I think I've explained it pretty well with these 3 programs, but I'm just going to do a quick recap. This will run forever. This checks whether or not any other condition is happening, and if that condition is happening, then it's just going to keep going on and on and on until it hits that break statement. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I feel like I might have made it a little confusing, but hopefully you guys understood it. While loops are, they're great and all, but I don't really have that. In Java I like for loops more, but in Python I like while loops a little bit more. But for loops are also useful because you don't need to make these counter variables. So yeah, I'd advise you to make some programs on your own using while loops. Just get used to them, because they're really gonna become helpful, and if you understand them, that's gonna be really good. So the next video is gonna be for loops. Make sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll see you later. Goodbye. Bye, Bridge.